Welcome to Hypnotic Talk with Miri and Neota, where we discuss all things hypnosis. So our individual practices have evolved into different specialties over the years, but we have remained connected through our mutual love of hypnotic healing. We meet here and we discuss and share all of our knowledge and stories from our professional practices. And today, our topic is the cost of living with anxiety. So, this is a huge topic that covers so many aspects. And what we're talking about is not the financial cost of living with anxiety, which is an aspect of it, but the more important money is something you can always get back. But there are other aspects of your life that you sell to live with anxiety. It's very, very expensive. So Miri, what do you think are some of the biggest costs, the biggest uh, expenditures that you give up in your life for anxiety?
That you're not living your life, basically.
Yeah.
If we just talk about the smallest things, like starting from the smallest thing, as you and I discussed before, you're not present in the moment, so you are not paying attention to what's happening. You're always thinking ahead, thinking to the future.
Yeah.
We can talk about sleep. If you are anxious, you won't fall asleep, and if you fall asleep, you will wake up pretty often throughout the night,
Yeah. Unrested.
unrested, and then you cannot function the next day. Your anxiety level is going up, stress is going up, everything is not as you want them to be.
Yeah. And
um,
it creates a cycle of um, fatigue, being worn down, creating a situation of stress, stress evolving into anxiety, and anxiety can further evolve into depression. It's uh, the cost of that progression, starting out and then getting on almost like a cycle, like you're stepping onto a merry-go-round that just keeps spinning faster and faster. And like you said, the inability to be present, to be in this moment and appreciating and enjoying the positives of it by not letting, sorry, but by your mind overthinking, getting into a spiral of overthinking and trying to control the future and not even being in the present. It's giving up the joy of the present,
so
trying
joy
to
is
control
another
the
thing.
future. Say that again.
I'm saying joy is another thing that you are
Yeah.
lacking of when you have anxiety. And what about keeping yourself limited? All the experiences are very limited. Um, Fear
Yeah,
is present.
indeed. Like it's the inability to move on, the inability to take a step or to engage in things, giving into the anxiety of the situation that something might be out of your control. Even if you are fully in control, but the inability to recognize it because your anxious mind is robbing that from you.
And there is another thing about having an anxious mind is that most often you also create anxious patterns, meaning that you start identifying or thinking more, focus more about what's going to be or what will go wrong rather than the experience itself. For example, going on vacation, what can go wrong in the vacation rather than, oh, I'm so excited to see this and to do that, but I'm not sure I can do it.
Right. So it's giving up the reality of being in a good place for the fear of being in a bad place. Now, speaking of that, anxiety does have positives. There are ways that anxiety is a positive in your life.
Yes. Yeah, it keeps you it keeps you alert. It can keep you safe. It can make you pay attention.
Yeah, and be prepared for things. A
Yes,
healthy dose of anxiety
that's
makes
it.
you organized
Right.
and in actual control of the things. Like when you're on vacation, your anxiety can make you, take your itinerary and know where your passport is and what time the flight is leaving and what the requirements are. You can use your anxiety to be organized and on top of things, but then it can branch over into an unhealthy and unproductive place. And then what kind of things start happening?
Yeah, and then you stay small and
Yeah.
limited. And
Yes.
then it can leak to other areas. For example, that you didn't do well in that, and now because of that, you're not worthy enough to do well in another thing. And we see it all the time. We see it with public speaking, right?
Yes.
When people are very well spoken, if it's one-on-one or one to very familiar groups, but then when they need to present something, a good idea at work, for example, then like they don't have the words. They
Yes.
have a block. As one of my clients said, she said, like, described it, she said, I have a block in my throat. I can't, like, nothing can flow. It's hard even to swallow my saliva.
Wow. And that's anxiety having a physical result.
Yeah, manifestation, yeah. And so it's, yes, of course, if we think about public speaking, it's one of the biggest thing, right? But it's
Yes.
it's it's some sort of anxiety,
Yes. And social anxiety, just
social anxiety.
the actual act of engaging in a social environment can be debilitating if the anxiety takes over and takes the positive and turns it into a negative.
Yeah. And what happens when we don't have control, right? This is anxiety. And the thing is that we don't have control.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
There are
the only
constantly
control
things
we
that are,
have, sorry, go ahead.
sorry. No, it's just that there's constantly aspects in the universe that we are not in control of. That's the reality of the situation. But being able to mitigate what we can control. And that's where taking, being proactive and addressing the situation so that there's the ability to take the negatives and turn them into positives, or to take the positives and stop there before it progresses into an unhealthy and negative aspect of anxiety.
And what can we can do about it is knowing that we don't have control, but also remind ourselves where we manage to execute things, thoughts, actions, behaviors in the past in a way that it was helpful, and maybe we can copy paste it into a different situation as well. So how we can take our own resources and empower ourselves to just execute them and trust ourselves. Yeah, we have no control over the situation. The bus never comes on time, and the planes are now late in, like, I don't know, 2 hours or something on average, or something like this. We don't have control.
Right. Right.
But how can we react in a way that feels safe to us in this situation? And I think
And
this is
like you said,
important.
yeah, being able to copy and paste. So what happens is the anxiety mind starts to create those pathways. It's like the banks of a river, and the water keeps rushing and rushing. And so it
Yeah.
creates the pathways. And so then that's the comfortable way. So then it's like react with anxiety, react with anxiety. We know this path. It's been forged and we can just stay with it. But being able to recognize we can make new pathways. We can copy and paste times in the past that we have been successful and divert the path around and make new pathways that are more positive, more fulfilling, more rewarding, and more filled with the ability to feel joy, to be present in the moment. And to do that in a state of hypnosis, copying and pasting the positives and diverting the path so that the anxiety is diverted. The anxiety response is diverted. The positive of the anxiety is applicable, but it doesn't get down that path into the negative.
Yeah, I agree. And the way as you talk, I'm just thinking in my mind, it's just jumping on the shoreline, allow the sun to dry you up before you decide whether you want to get back in the water or not, or maybe just walk in a different way, creating a new pathway. So
Yes.
I love this metaphor. I think it's really good, and I think what is very helpful to do when we're feeling anxious moments is the ability, and this again, this is something that we are working on with our clients, is the ability to allow yourself to take this moment where
Yep.
you can come from a place of choice rather than automaticity, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah, everyone knows that they need a pause, but it's really hard to execute this pause when you need it. And I think this
Because
is,
of the
yeah,
response that is already on the river. It
yeah,
already
yeah,
knows that path of how to respond.
yeah. And like, how can we help someone or support someone by showing them that there is a way they can take a deep breath, just one,
Yep.
just a split second, not to go with the flow,
Yeah.
and maybe to make a decision, like a conscious decision, like I can't take it anymore, or I want to think, jump on the show, maybe come back later to the water, and then decide what they want to do. But I think this moment is the obvious thing that we need to do, at the same time is the hardest thing to do.
Right. And making those switches, putting in the suggestions. And so many times, do you find it's true? The subconscious mind loves a good metaphor, doesn't it?
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
in hypnosis, we have the ability to create a new scenario in the subconscious mind. We have the ability with our clients to help them create opportunities for new responses.
And I think one of the most beautiful things about hypnosis is that we are just guiding them, but they are using their own resources to create metaphors, to create solutions, and
Yeah.
we just bring it to, like, with them up to the surface, but it was already within them.
Right.
Like, I tell my clients that I'm like a tour guide. I point my flashlight to different places, and it's their decision whether they want to look there or not.
Oh, I
But
love that.
wherever they look, it's their own choice to, to create something out of it. And many times they can, not many times, all the time, and all
Yeah.
the successful times, it's when they come up with solutions,
Yes.
because our
Yes.
solution is not necessarily right for them, right? Um,
Exactly. We can't decide what they need. They subconsciously know what they need, but they're blocked from accessing it and coming into our offices, coming into our practices, and giving us the opportunity to remove the block so they can get there themselves. It's so rewarding to work with people and have them get there,
and
have
I
them
think it's
remove.
more than for us being rewarded by that and love what we do. It's also very empowering for the
Yeah.
person who's working through hypnosis to get to the solution, because they know what they need to do. And many times we know that they come like, and we don't know what to do, or we tried everything, nothing helps, so what did you try? And then they start telling us everything they tried and failed. But then they find their own voice, their own, imaginative pathway,
Yeah.
their own metaphor, their own solution. And this is where the transformation begins, and this is how it happens.
Transformation. It is life changing to make those. Sometimes it's a small tweak and sometimes it's a complete reversal, but being able to do that and create a new response to life.
I have to share something.
Good.
Hopefully, we're not over time, but one of the tools in my office is Oculus, is virtual reality glasses, and it
Yep.
has very unique application that I'm using. And the creators of the application they are testing it in different mental institutions, different universities, but it's very unique kind of application where people are like floating. And so there are different objects and different colors. And, everyone, why I'm saying it is everyone is making something out of this. And it's
Yes.
different. Someone said, well, I know that it will happen to me because now I see that this specific color, blue, let's say, is coming towards me, but on my left.
Right.
So the way the subconscious mind is make the interpretation of this, of what they see, and bringing up the solution is amazing. Someone else told me, it's like an island. There is one of the object is a big ball. Said it's like an island. I can just leave my worries there and just float away. And then I think it's amazing because
It is.
everything sees the same objects, but give different interpretation. And this is what happens, right? This is what we see daily.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Their own perspective of the exact same situation. That's incredible. And it's true a little bit when you see a stage hypnotist and they have 20 people on stage and they give them all the same suggestion, and everybody responds to it differently. Like, when they tell them you're in a band and you're playing in this, some of them are like playing, like it's big, and some of them it's a little more reserved because it's still your experience, even
And
though the
some of them are
suggestion.
playing the saxophone, some of them are playing the violin, right?
Yes, yes. So you're still putting in your personality, your inclinations. You're still true to yourself, but you are able to make a change at the subconscious level. And another reason that we can do that with our clients in hypnosis is because we can help them quiet their anxious mind to get there. That's a huge part of it, is that ability for them to get out of their own way with our assistance. It's very powerful, empowering. It's a life-changing experience.
I love the work of Dr. Jeffrey Schwartz, who worked with OCD patients. But one of the things, and I'm not sure if this is exactly how he did it, but my interpretation and how I use it is that I tell my clients that, this is how your brain or mind or subconscious mind is thinking. This is the pattern. Now, if you stop it, you need to give it an alternative.
Yes.
You need to give it alternative way, right? So if you have something that you can do immediately to stop this overthinking, then you won in the situation.
Exactly.
So it can be anything. It can be, count yellow objects or sing a song. And if you prepare it in advance, you don't need to think of what you need to think of. You just,
that's right.
You have it available. So
you have an immediate response available, planned, in your control.
In your control, exactly. And then by doing it over and over again, you don't need to use the same diversion, but if you are stopping the pattern over and over again, it doesn't matter where, if it's the beginning, middle, more towards the depth of it, then you teach your mind that there are different ways, and you're breaking this, as you said, this stream, winding to where it usually goes. And so, one of my clients said, like, about Yellow Submarine, every time a thought is coming up that he doesn't like, he thinks about Yellow Submarine, like singing, and he thinks specifically about the words, the lyrics, because he said, like, if I focus on the lyrics, I know I cannot focus on anything else.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah. So there are so many ways that you can get control again, or be in control again, or, like
With
our
that,
teacher said, sit in the driver's seat and navigate your own car and go to where you want to go, rather than let the car lead you.
so many metaphors.
Yeah.
But we're going to wrap this up, but just what that stoppage and having that end of the thing at being diverted by a thought. I saw an interesting trick. I have a trick for helping people get over hiccups. You squeeze the glands and you drink a couple of good gulps, and it gets rid of hiccups. But I was just going to do that with we were at a social event and my friend got hiccups, and I was just going to go get the glass of water and help her with it. And another one of our friends that was there leaned over and said, "When's the last time you saw a white horse?" And it just was such a stop. And he said it quite casually, but he said, "When was the last time you saw a white horse?" And it just was, and as I was getting the glass of water, her hiccups ended. The distraction
The
took
pattern
that.
interrupt. Yeah.
Yes. And it ended her hiccups. And it was just so interesting that it works in that physical level as well, not in a hypnotic state, but just how powerful it is to divert your brain and take that moment. It can change everything.
It can. And so before we wrap up, I just want to say that I experienced severe anxiety and panic attacks. And for those who are listening and seeing us and watching us, I want to say that there is a way to get out of it. Hypnosis is not for everyone, but you can be on the other side. You can feel better, and you can experience life differently. And I want to encourage you to do what you can to explore and to research into how you can stop anxious feelings, anxious patterns, anxiety, and just live your life to the fullest and be the best version of you.
Yeah. And we will continue with this conversation we'll meet again and we'll talk about different ways that hypnosis rewires the brain from it. And stay tuned. There's definitely hope.
There is. Yeah. So thank you for staying with us. And of course, we'd love to hear from you. Any of your hypnotic questions that you have. And just a reminder, please subscribe to our channels and let us know of any interest that you have about hypnosis, and we'll try to talk to that. And just thank you for staying with us. And we hope it gave you a little tickle to your curiosity. And until next time, Neota and Miri. Bye.
Bye.